Hey guys, wanted to have just sort of I don't know, I guess a nuts and bolts kind of talk here about something that's kind of important and it comes up repeatedly, which is relationships in the Philippines and marriage and all that kind of stuff. I wanted to take just a moment with you and hopefully together we can kind of flesh out something, kind of approach the whole marriage thing anew. Now, the ideal is that that a lot of guys come to the Philippines with is they tell themselves, okay, I'm going to go to the Philippines. I hear there's a better class of women there, and there are many more traditional women to be found in the Philippines than out in the United States or Western countries in general. It's just a whole different culture. And if that's your goal to find a more traditional woman, I don't mean traditional like she's out there churning butter and, making your clothes or anything. I mean traditional in the sense of the role of a husband and the role of a wife in a relationship, the more old school traditional values where you're expected to lead, hold the responsibility, make decisions, fix problems. And she is there more as a support system, keeping everything orderly so that you can function without distraction. And that may sound very sexist and everything, but I'm telling you, all these other variations that have gotten away from traditional roles in marriage have been a disaster. You got men wearing aprons, basically being told what to do by the woman. And when everything falls apart, she expects him to fix it. Meanwhile, she wants the benefit of having the veto power. You can't have the authority and then shove all the responsibility to someone else. That just doesn't work. And there's so many other bad variations of marriage. So I guess what I want to ask you guys, and I'm here to ask you this question. Actually, I'll get to the question here in a minute, because the question in front of us really should be is if you are divorced, if you are single, if you are widowed, you're essentially not married to any woman. But here you are, you're maybe mid-40s or thereafter, and you find yourself rethinking your whole life, and you're thinking, well, what are my goals? What are my plans? And that's a good thing to do. And you start thinking, well, maybe I should get married again. Maybe you've been married once before. Maybe you've been married 4 times already, and it just hasn't stuck. Maybe you just have piss poor choices when it comes to women. Maybe you just had bad luck. Maybe it's something to do with you. Who knows? It kind of begs the question, really, if you back up a little bit, who says that getting married is something you should even really aspire to? Now, I know that there's all these things in motion. It's in our nature to want to pair up. I mean, animals do it, and we just kind of assume and we're motivated to do the same thing, and that life will be better being married and having a committed person in our life, and we're committed to them and all that. But I'm here to question that. And I say this as a married person. In my case, I've been married twice before, and for a variety of reasons, it just didn't last beyond 10 years. It was a great adventure. It was overall a pretty positive experience in my life, but it still ended nonetheless twice. And so when I came to the point that I was thinking, well, do I really want to get married again? I really put a lot of thought into it. I already knew after a year of knowing my wife, and well, who's now my wife, our first year knowing each other in person, I already knew I wanted to marry her. I already knew she was a woman of good character. I already knew through 1 year of observation she was a good woman, and she still is. But then came the question, okay, I have found a woman that would make a worthy wife, but now I had to decide, do I want to give up being single to be married? Because that's a huge decision. And in my case, I decided, yes, this is what I want to do. I want to put everything I've learned from the past into now and make the most of actually succeeding in marriage. And I'm telling you, the way I approach marriage now at my age, I'm now 63, I was about 57 when her and I met. The way I do marriage now is truly 180 degrees different than how I did marriage when I was in my 20s and how I did marriage when I was in my mid-30s. Completely different. I look back on even who I was in my earlier life. It's no wonder things fell apart. I was just unqualified. And that's the ironic thing of it all. We all come into life unqualified to be a parent, unqualified to be a good husband or wife. I mean, we have no life experience. It's all training on the job. It's all learn as you go. And so in my personal, and again, this is a personal choice every man has to make in the later part of his life. Does he want to get married again? In my particular case, A, found a really great woman. B, I have learned a lot from my previous marriages and mistakes and life experience. And so for me, the answer was yes. Now let's take a look at this from like a logical standpoint. You've heard, and I'm sure you've reasoned out for yourself, the various pros and cons of being single versus being married. Now there's a gray area in between there where guys do the middle ground. It's like they meet a good woman, they make babies with her, but they don't really live with her and they don't marry them. So we're not going to get really into that. We're talking about the binary decision between, are you going to stay single or are you going to make a commitment to marriage? Now, I'll give you my honest opinion. And again, I say this as a happily married man. No, there is no gun to my head. I consider myself like part of the fortunate, 8%. I don't know what the ratios are, but I consider myself in the tiny minority of men that can say they have a great wife. It's a joy to be with her every day. Is it always perfect? No, we have disagreements. We work them out and then we can continue with our day. But I overall consider myself very fortunate that, number one, I patiently kept looking for 7 years until I found who is now my wife. But I'm glad that I took 7 years looking around in the Philippines before I finally pulled the trigger and got married. But I think you've seen variations on this meme where the married friends are talking to their single friend and it's like, oh, guy, we feel so bad. We wish you had somebody. We wish you were married. And the guy's like, why? So I can miss out on doing what I want, when I want, how I want, with who I want. Why would I give that up? And there's a lot of truth to that. As you get older as a man anyway, I have found that the value of a peaceful life just keeps getting higher and higher. It becomes more important in your day that you can have a peaceful day. Because when you're younger, you have no choice. You have to get in the car and go out into the world and deal with all the jackassery that's out there because you got to earn a living. And you got to put up with gossiping coworkers. You got to put up with a demanding, inconsiderate boss that doesn't appreciate it come promotion time. You got to deal with traffic. You got to deal with a bunch of nonsense because it's necessary. You got to provide for yourself. But when you get older and you don't have to work anymore, you're retired. You got your pension coming in, your Social Security, your investments are doing good, whatever it is, and you don't have to put up with that nonsense anymore, you really begin to realize the value of having peace in your life. And I don't care what anybody says, getting married and adding what I call a random variable into your life, you're going to have to constantly make adjustments. When you're single, you don't make any adjustments. None at all. But when you're married, let's say just even what you're going to do for the day. Oh, it's a bright sunny day. You want to go to the beach, but you can't just get on your bike and go to the beach. You got to go consult with your wife. Hey, I feel like going to the beach. You want to go to the beach? Now, if she wants to go to the beach, everything's great. But if she tells you, no, I don't feel like going to the beach today. How about tomorrow? Well, maybe next week. But no, I definitely don't want to go to the beach today. Now, you already know things are going to get complicated if you just say, oh, okay, well, you grab your trunks and your backpack. I'll be back. I see you at the end of the day when I get back from the beach. Most women are going to get butthurt. It's like, oh, you're going to the beach without me? Well, yeah, because you don't want to go. And so I'm going to go to the beach. I'll see you when I get back. And now you're dealing with emotional blackmail and whatever. And it's like, well, why can't you stay with me and we'll watch a movie in the afternoon? It's like, but I want to go to the beach. We can watch a movie in the evening. You start having to do all these accommodations because you have another person in your life that you're trying to make them happy too. You know, it's not always that they're being selfish and demanding. It's just that you're trying to accommodate someone else. And vice versa. You might wake up and you're thinking, man, today I don't want to do nothing. I'm going to get my favorite book. I'm going to kick back on the couch. I'm going to read, and then I'm going to have a snack, and then I'm going to take a nap. I'm just not planning on going anywhere. And then she wakes up and she's like, I want to go here, or I want to go there. See, again, somebody once, I forget where I read it. Somebody said getting married is the process of having problems you wouldn't have had if you were single. It's true. So this is my question to you, and you can answer in the comments. My question to you is, have you really thought about what you're giving up? Because guaranteed, you can have a peaceful life as a single guy. The negatives, the drawdowns on being a single guy, especially a single guy in Southeast Asia, are really very small. Being a single guy in the West, it can get a bit lonely. It can be a bit boring, but you can always get a dog. If you're in the West and you get yourself a good dog, he will be your best buddy, and you'll have companionship. You'll have someone to love. You'll have somebody to give you affection and somebody that's happy to see you every time you come back from the grocery store. And whatever plans you have for the day, the dog doesn't care. He's up for it. Go out for a walk. He's up for it. Lay around all day. He's up for it. Toss the frisbee around. He's up for it. Having a dog is awesome. And sadly, there's a higher success rate in the West of guys who have found peace in their life, single with a dog, than guys who have decided, oh, I'm going to marry another Western woman and deal with all her debt, her attitude, her feminism, her selfishness, her narcissism. The success rate with guys who decide to marry into that, totally different. There are more guys happy with a dog in the West than there are probably guys that are happy just deciding to get married. And that's the thing. If you're in your 40s or 50s, your only choices that you're allowed is to marry a woman your age or older, and good luck with that. She is set in her ways. Good luck changing anything negative about her. She is set in her ways. And all the good ones, from what I hear, the good ones, the few that there are, they get snatched up quickly. Now, being a single guy in Southeast Asia, on the other hand, anytime you want company, you just walk out the door. You see a young, beautiful woman, and 9 times out of 10, it seems like she's single, and you just walk up, start some conversation. There's no reason, other than if she's married or has a boyfriend, there's no reason why you can't be on a date with her the very next day or even later that evening. Go out to dinner, go to the movies, a pizza at your place, whatever. It's not hard. Doesn't matter if you're in Thailand, Vietnam, Philippines, Cambodia. You can get past the language barrier and you can have company any day of the week with a younger, beautiful woman full of energy and just up for just about anything. So that's not a negative, being a single guy in the Philippines. And again, being a single guy, you do whatever you want. You do it when you want. You do it how you want. A buddy of mine, he bought a motorcycle. And so he went through the usual Facebook marketplace, all this, and he found this guy who was selling the motorcycle he wanted. It was a bank repo, so he saved a bunch of money on that. It already had its plates. There's a lot of advantages to it. Well, anyways, so he contacts the guy on Facebook, and they're chatting back and forth, and he says, let me see a picture of the motorcycle. So the guy sends him. Now, this is a single guy out there in Cebu, Filipino guy. And this is what he does. He buys the bank repos and then he turns around and sells them. And so he sends a picture to my buddy of the motorcycle. The guy keeps the motorcycles in his living room. I'm guessing he lives on the first floor. And that picture alone, a motorcycle in a living room, tells you this is a single guy. There is no way in hell that if he had a girlfriend or a wife, she would let him have a motorcycle in the house. But he didn't want them to get stolen, so he just kept them in the living room. And see, that's the kind of stuff you can do when you're a single guy. When you put something away, whatever, your shirt on a chair or something, you can come back 3 days later and it's still there. Not, hey, where's my shirt? Or where's my reading glasses? Where's my coffee cup? I wasn't done with that coffee. Where's it at? And of course, you ask the only other person that could have moved it when you're married, and it's like, where's my coffee? And she goes, oh, I threw it in the sink and I washed the cup. I wasn't done drinking that. You know, when you're single, you put something somewhere, 5 years later, it'll still be there unless you move it. So life is simpler. You have freedom to do what you want. If you're in Southeast Asia, you can get all the company you want. And when you're tired of having some company, it's like, hey, this has been fun. It's been a lot of laughs. It's been a great long weekend. Time for you to go home. I need 3-4 days just to myself. You don't get to do that when you're married. You want some time to yourself, or you say to yourself, you know what? Hanging out with this one girl every day for the last 2 weeks, that's been awesome. It's been great. But I feel like going to Thailand, or I feel like going to Vietnam. And so you get on the computer and you book your flight and you go. And when you get a message from that girl, hey, where are you at? Oh, I'm in Vietnam, or I'm in Thailand. See you when I get back. When you coming back? Don't know. You can do what you want. And I bring all this up because I really want you to think outside the box. Don't assume you can only be happy if you're in a marriage. I know that sounds shocking. And again, coming from a married guy, I'm very happy. I'm having a great time. I love waking up and there's my wife and she's cheerful and she's like just a fountain of just joy every day. She's sweet and loving. She's affectionate, cooks me nice meals. It's a wonderful life. But I do need to accommodate, out of consideration. There's 2 of us, not just me. And, when I look at the whole ball of wax, like I said, because I'm in that tiny minority that found a really good woman, marriage is pretty awesome. But it's not for everyone. And you're setting up a challenge for yourself. If you say to yourself, well, I want to find a good woman and get married. That's like saying, I want to buy a backpack and climb Mount Everest. Find a good woman. Okay, stop. That goal right there could take you years. Even in Southeast Asia. There's a lot of wonderful women, but just because they have good marital values and good character does not mean you can get along with their personality. That's like the third leg of the stool. It's like, okay, they got traditional values. Okay, they got a wonderful character, but some personalities you just don't do well with. She might be too busy and loud, and you want a more tranquil, peaceful woman, or she might be tranquil and peaceful, and you want somebody a bit more exciting. Her personality might be she just talks too much. It could be anything. So just something to think about. Don't assume you have to be married to be happy. There's a wonderful life to be had. Just being a single guy, doing what you want when you want, and just enjoying life. And if you have no intention of being an expat and it's just not for you, and you're looking at your later chapter of your life and you're like, okay, well, I'm going to stay in America. I'm going to stay in Europe. I'm going to stay in Australia, whatever. My recommendation, go down to the animal shelter, pick out a really cool dog, maybe a puppy so he's with you longer. And I'm telling you, having a good dog at your side, it makes for a happy day.